Wouldn't it be great if there was a plant whose leaves were highly nutritious, was resistant to slug attack, it was fast growing and hardy, and truly maintenance free, whose leaves could be harvested throughout any season of the year? Well, may I introduce the tree collard, sometimes called tree kale, Brassica oleracea, who is always pleased to make your acquaintance. On a hill
near a wood,
where nobody goes,
up a track,
through a gate, the food forest grows, with secrets and treasures for everyone's pleasure, and Rob's discovery. Hello again, and welcome back to the forest garden. This once rather elusive tree-like form of brassica is now enjoying its resurgence, and about time too. It's an excellent companion for loads of things, except strawberries, tomatoes, and certain kinds of beans. Mine can be seen towering out of the centre of my leek patch and medicinal herb nursery bed, with a few scattered around the orchard area for good measure. It's not that I gobble kale galore, although I happily would if there weren't so many other delights around here to choose from. It's just that every time a gust of wind snaps off one of its brittle stems, the thrifty rag and bone man within me takes every one of them to plant up as a cutting. And as they root so very well, they are an effortless way to keep in favour with your gardening friends by donning out spontaneous kale cuttings throughout the year, nicely potted up like this. I say kale cuttings, it's actually better to rip them off the stem or pick up the ones that have been damaged by wind, because when ripping them off the stem, they retain some of the growth hormones where the bud was at the bottom of the stem here, and they root a lot more easily. In good soil, they can grow up to 2 meters high within a year and live for up to 20 years. If their charms begin to wane, or they become too disorderly, they're pretty easy just to snap off at the base, which can sometimes happen accidentally if one is foolish enough to go scurrying by with ill-fitting Wellington boots, carrying 2 full watering cans and a large bare-rooted bay tree. There is one particular challenge to growing them here in the forest garden, however. The geese. They absolutely love them. I'm indeed happy for them to supplement their dull, verdurous diet on a few of my personal sweet salady crops here and there, but they always head straight for the collards first thing in the morning. They then tell me that they're too full for their contract-bound grass-cutting duty, and will start later in the day when they're less full, as they rip off another protein-packed leaf and toss their heads back, eyeing me defiantly. Usually I ignore this, but sometimes I put my hands behind my back, kneel and join them by ripping off a few leaves with my teeth, whilst their intelligent blue eyes peer at me with faint amusement and indolence. Anything to keep them away from my Swiss chard, though. Because the leaves contain no oxalic acid, they can be eaten raw, and are best in the morning time when still turgid before the sap returns to the roots in the afternoon. They are much sweeter after a frost, so needless to say, my Christmas dinner is always quite kale laden. Incidentally, today is November the 8th, and this morning was the first hard frost there was, so these leaves are really sweet. So very sweet. Thank you, kale. Whoa. Mullein moth caterpillars love it too, and just a handful can strip a mature plant in a couple of days. I overcame this by mixing a few of these decorative crawlers amongst my khaki Campbell ducks' pellety supper. Within 2 days, the ducks came to see these creatures as a viable food source, and voila, no more caterpillar-riddled leaves. Not below 1/2 metre anyway, which is just about as high as the ducks can reach. Whether foraging around my garden for lunch or tea, or sometimes breakfast, invariably one of these purpley green vitamin and calcium rich leaves always ends up in my wicker picking basket. The tree kale is particularly high in vitamins K, A and C, and by weight is more protein rich than beef. So there are many good reasons for it always to be on the menu. Usually I just rip them up and add them to whatever mix of that day's leaves and vegetables I'm sautéing in my cast iron skillet. I can't do this with one hand. This week it's mostly tomatoes and courgettes, with copious amounts of collard for extra iron. Though when I'm feeling decadent enough to put the oven on, there's nothing quite like the lightly salt and pepper seasoned crisped collard. Ooh. As the days shorten and the darkness drives me indoors, the time for culinary experimentation will soon begin. There are plans afoot for collard smoothies, collard soup, and even collard sauerkraut, so watch the space. Thank you very much for watching, and see you soon. Bye!